Na 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 ni, na 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 ni, na na ma 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 na ni na ni na ni ni na ma 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 me na na ni na ni na ni na na ni na 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 ni ni na 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 ni na ni da la la ho ho ho. Les Français, les champions, les 2026 Six Nations. Les Français, les champions, les 2026 Six Nations. Vickers, Miranda, you never knew I could speak French, but on Sunday, the 15th of March, 2026, we're speaking all languages. I'm not by myself. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Rugby Scoop podcast. Hugh Griffin is with us. Vuyo Zanga is with us. Jade, always waiting for the taxi at the taxi rank, could be joining soon. Anyway, we are back. We are back. We are back. Na ni na na ni na na ni ni na na na. Anyway, Hugh Griffin, how things going? How are you doing on this Sunday afternoon or evening now?
Good man. Joining you from the Northern Hemisphere, aka the home of the greatest rugby competition in the world, the Six Nations, where the thriller minutes, the excitement, the drama, the controversy, it comes only in the highest order for the Six Nations, the best international sporting competition in the world, not just in rugby, but in any sport, aka Super Rugby North, as it's become known.
Soundbite of the year. Soundbite of the year. Oh man, I'm using that one. Vickers, Miranda, Hugh Griffin is telling us about the greatest rugby competition the world over. How are things in South Africa? How are you doing?
Yeah, good, Ruth. Man United won, so pretty happy. But good Sunday. I'm not sure if I'll be in for the full hour and 30, but I'll try to do my best, gents.
Not to worry. Not to worry. Then that means we need to kick things off as usual, gents. Obviously, we're doing news-making headlines. And then from news-making headlines, we jump onto the URC. Stormers, hello, how are you doing? And then we jump into the Six Nations. Then we do, as usual, Super Rugby. Crusaders, we are back. We are back. We are back. Hugh Griffin, Will Jordan, how good. Anyway, news-making headlines this week, ladies and gentlemen. What am I starting with? Oh, France, obviously, crowned 2026 Six Nations champions. England head coach Steve Bothwick believes his side were robbed of the famous win against France. Oh, wow. Bold by Steve Bothwick. Johan Ackermann has reportedly asked the Blue Bulls and tried to convince the CEO Edgar Rathbone to get Curwin Bosch. Can you believe this, Vickers? Curwin Bosch is Ackers Done with Pollard. What's going on?
That is crazy business, mate. That is crazy business.
I didn't expect this one. I really did not expect this one. Despite beating England 48-46 in the thriller in Paris to retain the Six Nations title, Ireland remained the highest ranked side from the Northern Hemisphere behind the number 1 ranked Springboks and number 2 ranked All Blacks, which is quite interesting. But I think because England was so low, it was impossible for France to probably leapfrog over Ireland into that number 3 spot in the world rankings. Rassie Rasmus celebrating 8 years with the Springboks this year. 8 years with the Springboks this year. Vickers, would you have thought the Springboks would be in this position in World Rugby when Rassie was appointed in 2018? end of 2017, beginning of 2018?
Look, Scoop, no one could have predicted it, but we're talking 8 years straight. But remember, he was part of the SA Rugby from 2012 till 2016. So if you add those years, you're looking at 12 years plus on with the role that he's had. So that's very good. I mean, that means that he's doing the business. And if you look at South Africa where they are, they should be very happy to have Rassie within the ranks.
No, fair. Griffin, I don't know how familiar you were with Springboks footy back in 2018, but I mean, looking at what Rassie has achieved over this tenure, Vickers is giving us obviously some history because he was there when 2012 to 2016 or 2015, but I think he was also involved under Jake White for a stint, if I'm not mistaken, or was it Peter de Villiers, one of the two? So he's been around for a very long time. But I mean, since 2018, would anyone have thought that the Springboks would be in the position that they're in today?
Well, if you flip the question around, Scoop, what has he not done? What has he not achieved?
Oof,
what has he failed at? I can't think of anything. I think the last mountain to climb is Eden Park, and once that, you can say that he can weep for there are no more lands to conquer. So yeah, crazy. And for someone to do what he does, he's clearly an emotional guy. He must just live and breathe it. He must think of nothing else. He must really, last thing he thinks about before he goes to bed, first thing he thinks about when he gets up in the morning must be Springboks. So to continue it for this long, that guy must be tough.
Yeah. Springbok breakfast, huh? Springbok for lunch, Springbok for dinner. He's even dreaming about Springboks. Probably sleeps. He's got probably Springbok pajamas as well. I wouldn't be surprised. Jade Craig, the taxi has arrived. Bloemfontein. All the way from Bloemfontein. Talk to me. How are things over there?
Nah, it's good, Scoop. Good. Can't complain. A lot of rugby on TV. Schoolboy rugby started. So, in Bloemfontein, you only get a lot of schoolboy rugby because the Cheetahs don't play meaningful games anymore. So, I think Great College is the whole premier team in the Free State now.
What a mess. Anyway, I mean, speaking of Great College and Bloemfontein, Rassie has spent a long time over there. We're celebrating his 8 years as a Springbok coach now. I mean, when he got appointed, the same question maybe I can ask you as well. Would you have seen this coming? Would you have seen the Springboks to be where they are when Rassie took over?
No ways. There wasn't any indications that this was going to be a team that's this dominant, And I mean, it wasn't like he had a golden generation. It wasn't like he was dominating guys from under 20s or so, it was really dominating. I mean, if you look at when he took over, what was the basis? He was forming his team upon was basically the Lions. That was the form team in Super Rugby. And, from there, he went on, changed a few laws, got a few experienced South Africans to come back to South Africa and play for the Boks, with eligibility laws changed. Changed a lot of setup, bumped a few heads on the way, chased a few more broken relationships with a few well-known and well-loved individuals in South African rugby. I won't mention names. But he did it his way, and look where the team is now. I mean, look at his IP. He's got around him now. He's got guys from all over the world assisting him, He's got guys from England, Ireland, New Zealand, all assisting him, helping him. So I think what he done, the way he did it, the route he took it, he's been a maverick. He'll continue to be a maverick. I mean, he went from stepping down. I mean, obviously, Rassie also had a battle with illness at the time. But he went over, took over the director of rugby post. Johan Ackermann was the coach. He basically, in the last World Cup, said, okay, I'm the coach now. Although Ackermann's got a title. He made the calls, from the bench. And he did it his way. He signed on for I think he's got another 6 years in the job. So, yeah, I mean, that's Rassie Erasmus. We've been seeing highs, we've seen lows, we've seen a lot with him, But I think there's a few things that he wants to accomplish. And like you said, I think the one that he really wants to break that Eden Park record, So if I'm New Zealand rugby, don't play a game at Eden Park against the Boks. So that Rassie not break that record, I'm only playing. Still there, Scoop?
No, not connection issues again.
I think so.
Oh, no. I'm here. I think my mic was off. But nonetheless, bring on the Springboks. Let them come to Eden Park. We are not afraid. We are not scared of them. Anyway, moving on. Wales have ended a 3-year wait in the Six Nations with the convincing victory over Italy in Cardiff, guys. What a game, man. But well done to Wales. We will cover that as well. And not wasting any time, let's jump on to the URC. Let's jump on to the Stormers beating the Blue Bulls at home at Loftus. Vickers, you did watch a bit of this. I mean, share some of your thoughts, and we'll kind of break it down as well. And then we'll jump on to... we won't jump onto the Sharks. Unfortunately, the Sharks are back to normal. We spoke about this before. You don't make an interim coach the head coach. Look at what Man United are doing currently in football. Every time they've made an interim coach the head coach, they've gone on to lose convincingly. Unfortunately, Peterson doesn't have what it takes currently. I mean, he's lost back-to-back against the Lions now. He hasn't won any game since he's been made the head coach of the Sharks. So there is problems there. Vickers, take me through the Stormers and the Blue Bulls.
Yeah, look, I think we sort of touched on it on the weekend, on yesterday.
Yeah.
The game was very physical, and credit to the Stormers forwards. They brought in the physicality. I don't know if that had to do with is it Foree? Dion Foree was back. I don't know, maybe his experience and obviously we know how hard he is. Maybe that had an influence in it. But for me, I think that it's credit to the coaching staff for getting the boys up. And it's one of those where you think, Scoop, that look, if the forwards are going to dominate, then they'll win the game. And that's exactly what happened. And I don't know why coaches keep looking at rugby differently, rugby DNA. Rugby DNA has a lot to do with what the province represents. And I think the Bulls, we've always said, they play a forward dominant game, but now all of a sudden, because of the backs that they have, they weren't looking at obviously using those forwards to the dominance. So for me, it's credit to the Stormers for bringing the play, for bringing the hard work. And I think from there, we can all agree that this has been and one of the top performers from the Stormers.
No, 100% agree. 100% agree. But I mean, we were all buoyant. We were all happy, or not happy, but we were all quite impressed with the improvements that the Bulls had made over the past couple of weeks, or since the introduction of the Moby unit, the Springbok assistant coaches. You know, I think they brought in some experience. They brought in some foundation as well, man. You know, a platform where the Blue Bulls could operate from. And we could see how often, or the changes within their attack shape. I mean, they try and hit you around the breakdown, and Ambrose Papier is quite good at darting at the pillar post or the ABC defenders. So to suck them in and then make a nice pop pass or offload to a forward running at speed and obviously confrontational. So the Bulls have worked a lot about that, but then the Stormers probably then went onto their laptops the past week or the past 2 weeks, and they kind of analyzed what they needed to do. And majority of those Stormers players come from real Transvaal and Vrystaat areas, you know, so you can't beat them on the physicality. When it's physical, they can match you up on the physicality. And also credit to their forward pack, I mean, and also their forwards coach in terms of standing up against that Bulls onslaught, because I mean, there's not a lot of times I've seen Nortje move being pushed backwards when it comes to carries. You know, over the past couple of seasons, I mean, that's what also got him to be a Bok, not just only his line-out work, but his work around the park as well. But on Saturday, he was getting driven backwards. Schikkeling was dominant in that contact area, you know. So it was quite impressive to see from a Stormers perspective how much they had changed their game plan. And then we talk about scrums. I mean, the Blue Bulls haven't been pushed backwards at scrum time or lost scrums during penalties and got penalized a lot. and this happened on Saturday. And then the more, Vickers, sheepers, the more. I mean, the Stormers dominated every facet when it came to the physical part of the game. It's unbelievable, and that this was done at Loftus, guys, with what, 30,000, 40,000 people at the stadium. Wow. Anyway, Vickers, Hugh, did you get to watch these two sides?
I only got to see the highlight, bro. But yeah, like you said, it just looked like it was everything physical from the Stormers. They kind of swapped game plans, isn't it?
Yeah.
Traditional Blue Bulls rugby, traditional Stormers rugby. Who's trying to razzle dazzle? With the Stormers, I think you just need to see two things. You need to see how the physicality is going, and you need to see whether Damien Phillips is on the team sheets. If those two things are in the affirmative, then I think they're going to win.
Jade, talk to me.
Yeah, Scoop, I'm not too surprised with the result because obviously the Stormers haven't been having it their own way recently, and they did deserve it, or they did have a bounce back, in the pipeline. I mean, they've been really terrible for like the past 4, 5, 6, 7 match days. I can't say weeks, but let's say match days because they've had a break, a long break between. But yeah, it just shows, that they are a quality team. It just shows, what the strength that they do have, and they can go to a team like at the Bulls at Loftus and just demolish them, because that's what they did at the end of the day. I mean, low key, the Stormers Tank 5 was really fronted up yesterday. I think they fronted up. I think, like you mentioned, J.G. Schichling has been one of their standout players this season. I'm not going to rave too much on them because it's always how they go on with their next game. That's been the Achilles heel recently. They started good and then they went really bad. So let's see now. Maybe if that was, just a bad patch they win and they sorted things out. But like you said, if you have Damien Willemses and those guys in the team, you can always go for higher honors. I think of the South African teams, Scoop, I don't know how you feel about it. I think the Stormers are the more realistic and the strongest team. If I'm thinking of who would win the URC, I think they're the one team that can go and beat a Leinster or Glasgow away with the strongest team. And I think they're the team that might go the deepest in the European Cup as well, in the Champions Cup as well. So, I think it's African team.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
They've got it, So that's just what we want. What we expect from them. I don't know if this last few weeks they ironed out all of the issues they had. We'll have to see about. We have to judge them in the next few weeks, like we mentioned, and you've mentioned a few times. When you're getting onto the URC and everything, that the URC really only starts when the Six Nations is done. So that's when the action really starts. So that's when teams start to make their runs and start to get click. The resting period or the resting protocols kind of go out of the window now because teams, they tend to ignore it because they know that until the end of the year they've got these international players for the next 3-4 months. So yeah, let's see how they kick on now, because now a lot of focus will be on the URC and the European Cup, to see in which way the Stormers is going. But in terms of the way, I don't know. They've been fairly consistent in terms of results this year. They've either been very good or they've been bad. So let's hope for them, the consistency stays and then they can stay with us winning performances for the next few weeks.
Yeah, no, fair. Can you hear me? Yes, you can. Yeah, no, fair. I get what you're saying. I mean, I'm looking at the fixtures for round 16. So we have 2.5 weeks or 2 weeks before the round of 16 in the Investec Championship. So Toulon are hosting Stormers. That's going to be a tough one. It depends on what Dobbo decides to do that week, because if they go full strength, I think there's a potential opportunity, especially when it comes to the scrum debate or the scrum conversation. Also, it depends on who they would be playing in the URC the week before or the week prior. But I think when you say Investec Championship, you really need to look at who they're playing. But also, I mean, from a Toulon point of view, Griffin, I mean, how strong do you think they could handle a Stormers in the Investec Championship?
Toulon at home, they're clear favourites. I'll be very surprised if Stormers go there and knock them over.
Boom.
Very, very, very few teams go to Toulon and beat them.
Including Toulouse.
Toulouse are the only team who reliably do it.
I just had to throw that one in there. Okay, we're not going to touch on the higher. I think let's jump onto the Six Nations. First game, guys, Scotland versus Ireland. And I said Scotland. I think they were still hung over from the French wine from last week. As Vickers would say, the Bordeaux wine. But it wasn't impressive for me. I really had a lot of expectations from the Scottish. And had they won that game maybe convincingly with the 5-pointer, it could have been a different story in terms of the result of the championship last night. But they failed to deliver when it counted, because this game could have really given them a chance of winning the Six Nations for the first time in over 26 years, I think. So I don't know what other motivation or what else could motivate you for a championship title either than 26-year drought, and you probably have one of the best teams you've had in Scottish rugby history, to be honest, in terms of skills, in terms of caliber of players from 1 to 23. I think this is probably one of the best outfits that Scotland has had. And we've spoken about Gregor Townsend going to, was it Exeter or Newcastle, to help out, and now it's come out that he's going to go and coach them after the World Cup. So there's also that, and then you get a Finn Russell, who is probably the most hyped player in world rugby as a number 10. You know, in games like this, you're probably looking for him to kind of deliver, and I think when he struggles on the field, it almost filters through the players and the team itself. That's the general feeling I get. And in that first half, he wasn't seeing good ball. His forward pack was dominated at the breakdown. And, you know, I don't know, they needed something to uplift them. And also, Tui Polotu, as a captain, as probably one of their best players as well, kind of was getting bullied as well by McCloskey, to be honest. So, I mean, for me, these are like the small little things that I took away from that game. And then from an Irish point of view, a guy I spoke about last week on this pod as well, and I said Dan Sheehan has had a very quiet Six Nations. And on Saturday, out of nowhere, he's out there catching balls, bringing them into play. He's out there making fine tackles, stopping a maul by himself, driving players into touch. He's a nuisance at the breakdown. I mean, he was everywhere on Saturday. That's the Dan Sheehan we've seen or got to know for the past, 4 to 5 seasons now? And the way Ireland started that game, again, last week, I said, we haven't seen Ireland start a game like they've been doing in 2022, in 2023, I think 2021 as well, if I'm not mistaken, where it's a kickoff, it's a blitz attack. Within 2 to 3 minutes, they're already 7 points up. 5 minutes, 6 minutes later, they are 10, 14 points up. You know, that's the Irish team that we got accustomed to. And that's the Irish team we got to see against Scotland, which means they were motivated to actually beat Scotland, number one. 2, to put them in a good chance to win the championship as well, because don't forget, they were also in the running when it came to points. So, yeah, Jade, I mean, what did you see in this game for you? What are your takeaways? What does Scotland need to do now? We're going to another Six Nations next year, but we've got the championship thing running now from summer right into autumn series, and another Six Nations next year. I mean, Gregor Townsend, he's still going to be there, right? He's still going to have the same quality and caliber of players. Where to now for Scotland?
I wouldn't say it was a terrible Six Nations. I would look at it and look at the strides that they made. Now, I'm judging them as where they are on the world rankings, and, you know, if I cluster the certain groups of teams. At the moment, you know, the Boks are ahead. I mean, it's evident in the way they they've been playing in the performances. But then you have teams like France and New Zealand, and maybe Ireland was there, but they're slowly going on the, sliding down that ladder. And England was also there, but they also didn't have a good Six Nations. So you had about 3 or 4 teams that, were on that, second to third to fourth rank in the rankings that you could state, they're not, they can challenge the Boks, but then they can go 2 or 3 games on the trot, but you wouldn't see them winning 4 on the trot, 5 on the trot. And then you have your Scotlands, your Argentinians, your Australians, that teams, for example, would have one massive result this week, and then next week, everything would just go bad for them, downhill. They have a terrible performance. Now, Scotland can't get out of that scoop. They're capable of beating France and England, at home. But they just don't have that, just to add on to it. When you expect them now, even though they're playing Ireland away, but I expect them to build on the past 2 results and past 2 games. I expect them to win, this game against Ireland away, because Ireland hasn't really been playing good rugby. I mean, if Ireland won the Six Nations yesterday, that would have been the biggest load of bullshit ever, because, they didn't deserve to win it. On the trot, 5 on the trot. And then you have your Scotlands, your Argentinians, your Australians, that teams, for example, would have one massive result this week, and then next week, everything would just go bad for them, downhill. They have a terrible performance. Now, Scotland can't get out of that scoop. They're capable of beating France and England, at home. But they just don't have that, just to add on to it. When you expect them now, even though they're playing Ireland away, but I expect them to build on the past 2 results and past 2 games. I expect them to win, this game against Ireland away, because Ireland hasn't really been playing good rugby. I mean, if Ireland won the Six Nations yesterday, that would have been the biggest load of bullshit ever, because, they didn't deserve to win it. Let's be honest about it, It would be ridiculous if they had to win it. But Scotland just couldn't get over that, They can't get that winning at 2 or 3 on the trot against quality opposition. Yeah, they can beat you once. They can beat the top team once. They ran New Zealand close. They beat England. They beat France at home. So they've got that. They're capable of beating a top team. But the next week, they can't back it up. So that's a frustration in terms of Scottish rugby. So if you're looking at it in tournament perspective and in the World Cup, the way the World Cup is laid out, you're going to have to go back-to-back 3 weeks in a row to win the World Cup against top quality opposition. So I don't think Scotland has that. They'll still stay in that cluster where they are now. Yep, they can beat any team on the day if they put in the performance with spirited performance. However, I don't see them, backing it up. And for me, that's the biggest concern with Gregor Townsend, because we knew, and it was evident for the past few years under Townsend, he's had a good team. They've got a good foundation with the Warriors. They've got quality world-class players in the team. However, they just couldn't get out of this. And maybe this is his ceiling, as a coach. He can't get them to that next level. And this is the next level they need to go at. I mean, if you look at the way they played yesterday, they were nowhere near the team they were last week. Nowhere near. They were bullied at the breakdown. They couldn't get over the advantage line, with ease, like they did against France the week before. The guys like Kingon, Darcy, Steyn weren't influential, so they didn't get real space. They didn't get time on the ball like they did the week before. And that was what they did. They manipulated the game so that they could get the key players, the X-factor players in the backline with space, with time running onto the ball. Hugh Jones and all of those guys. So that's the concern I have for Scotland. Obviously, we know they don't have the depth, but they can play the same team for 4 weeks in a row, but they'll give you 4 different results. That's the big
one. Griffin, Jade points out a few good nuggets here. Speaking about Scotland having reached their ceiling, number one. And then the last part he mentioned, I think, is quite important as well, when he says Scotland can play 4 different teams and give you 4 different results. 4 different results. These are not the things we talk about when we have a Springbok debate, for example. These are not the things, maybe under Razor it would have been a similar situation if we spoke about the All Blacks. But I mean, when we look at the Scotland team and what you saw yesterday, I mean, first of all, did you have any hope that Scotland had an opportunity to beat Ireland in Ireland? Because we haven't seen that this half of the decade or even longer.
Yeah, I had hope. You'd say that Scotland were playing better, and I know there was the historical precedent ahead of it, but last week we saw Italy beat England for the first time. So, someone said sometimes that if rugby pundits were weathermen, they would say it's not going to rain tomorrow because it didn't rain yesterday.
Boom.
So I think they had a chance. I think Ireland just know how to beat Scotland. These guys play each other a lot. And, if you look in the URC, Leinster's record against Glasgow is very strong. They seem to just know how to beat them. A couple of games towards the end of last season, they gave them a hiding. Geordie Barrett starred and things. And I think that the way that Scotland play, Scotland's kicking has dropped right down in the last couple of years. In 2024, they were the most kicking team in the Six Nations. In the last 2 years, they've been the least kicking team. And just that keeping the ball going through the phases, I think that's just how Ireland's love to play. I think they go, we'll just go all day with you. You want a ruck? Cool. You want another ruck? Cool, I'm there. Yeah. And it just suits them. And I think that, you compare to France, that's the opposite of how France play. France don't want to go through phases. They don't want long, drawn-out defensive periods. They don't want long, drawn-out attacks.
Yeah.
Whereas Ireland love that. That's Irish rugby down to a T. So I think they've just mastered it better than Scotland have. You have to say it's disappointing. And, that score line isn't great at the end, 43-21.
Yep.
That's 43 points at test level. It's not great, but there's some kind of mental block there. I'm reminded of some of the players did like a live reaction to the World Cup draw, and the Scottish players did it, and they said, and they got Ireland, and they just went silent, and they just went, oh, okay. So I there's something there, and we've always said about Scotland, what is it? It's a mental block. We've always said that there's something psychological going on that's stopping Scotland from getting to the next level. And so how do you review this Six Nations? They beat England. Okay, they do that a lot. They beat Wales. Wales aren't great. They beat France. That was amazing. They lost to Italy. That was very unamazing. And they got beat by Ireland yet again. So you're looking at it and you're going, really, they had one good result, really, if you look at it, which was the France game. And it was an amazing result. An absolutely amazing result, but
couldn't back it up.
It's just another Scottish Six Nations. It's just how they go.
Jeez, come on, Vickers, come on, Finn Russell. Vickers, Hugh is mentioning also some awesome nuggets today, guys. Bloody fantastic, isn't he? Hugh talks about, a team that doesn't kick a lot or hasn't kicked a lot since 2024. And looking maybe at the current, would you say there's an influence because Russell is there, Tui Polotu is there, who's this former Stormers center now at 13? I forgot his name now. Jones. Hugh Jones is there, They've got some Stain is there on the wing. They've got some razzle-dazzle at fullback as well. They've got the minerals. They've got the players, to run the ball from anywhere. But why wouldn't you want to kick and not play too much in your own half, for example? Like going back to last year when we complained actually for the past 2 years, complained about Razor and his game tactics, about playing in the wrong areas where everyone else in international rugby is kicking that ball in those areas. Why would you want to still stay there unless you don't trust your kicking game, unless you don't trust the application of a kicking game, So when you kick, you don't just kick long like a like a Bowden Barrett used to do. You kick for the ball to be contested in the right areas or disrupt the challenge in the air. So the ball becomes loose. It's a free-for-all for anybody. Whoever collects it, if you get to collect it back, you're in a good ascendancy situation. You're playing in the right areas. You haven't wasted too much energy where your forwards are bouncing from ruck to ruck, you know. But Vickers, what do you make of this as well? I mean, what do you make of Scotland? What do you make of Ireland? And what do you make of what Hugh has said as well?
Look, what you guys said is spot on in terms of the forwards, the Scotland forwards can only pull it off for 1 week. And this is why I've said from the get-go that they will never be able to play a World Cup final, because you have to back it up for 3 weeks. So for me, it's very easy to say, look, they need depth. They don't have depth. And unfortunately, we know that they're not going to be able to have depth. If we look at a perfect example, the Ireland forward just decided to go toe-to-toe. Let's go toe-to-toe. Kellen Doris was excellent. Byrne was excellent. Sheehan was excellent. Even Furlong missing a couple of tackles, he was good. So that's the only thing that you need to do against Scotland. And they won't have someone coming off the bench to come and better the performance. And that's why that's the bigger issue. That is a very big issue. So for me, the only thing I can say is that for Scotland, for example, they need depth, and like you say, Scoop, because they have quality backs. I mean, their backs are quality. They'll be in most match day 23s of any team, either starting on the bench. So if you close Tuipulotu, he had a bad game yesterday. So if you close him, then who else is in the backs who's going to step up? And like you said, if a guy like a friend Russell is not getting the ascendancy within the game, is not getting into the groove, if we call it like that, then who's next? There's no one who's stepping up. So for me, I think the massive issue with them is that we know that they can't step it up for week after week after week. So they actually need depth to get depth onto their side, but they don't. So yesterday they were literally dominated from the forwards. We can actually, all of us can say that these guys, their forwards couldn't do anything. So for me, that's one of the biggest issues. And then obviously, if the backs are getting backward ball and then they forcing play, because there were a couple of times we were forcing play, and I think that's where they lost it. But like you say, Scoop, I think we all agree that the Scotland can back it up for 1 weekend, not for 3 weekends, not for 4 weekends, and that's a massive issue if you are the coaching staff of that team. And that's why if the coaching staff doesn't see it, if the coaching staff doesn't see it, then we don't know what we're talking about. But it's obvious to anyone.
Gregor. Oh man, there's maybe potential influence. I mean, all of us here, even the guys listening, have all seen how Glasgow Warriors play rugby, right? And maybe there could be an influence there in terms of how Gregor Townsend has decided to utilize this team as well, not moving too far away, because I think there must have been about 11, 12 Warriors players in the Scottish lineup. There must have been 11, 12 Leinster players in the Irish lineup. So like you said, they know each other in and out. They know, and Leinster guys know how to beat Glasgow Warriors, and Glasgow Warriors don't know how to beat Leinster. Even under Dave Rennie in the final of Pro 14, by the way, Leinster and Glasgow Warriors were in it to win it. But nonetheless, I think there's another aspect that impressed me from an Irish point of view, where they also dominated Scotland in the scrum, in the set-piece scrum, which was something I didn't expect, considering what Scotland did to France last week. Yes, we agree that the French scrum is probably, something we'll discuss a bit later, but it's not really in a good position right now. But just the mere fact that Ireland or Irish players stood up this weekend, especially when it came to scrums, I mean, it also goes to show how Farrell has gotten these guys psyched, motivated, and back to the groove again. I mean, had we seen this type of Irish team in that first game against France, who knows where this Irish team could have been by the end of this tournament, But as we've seen over the years, whenever Pendergrass starts for Ireland. I think maybe this also needs to go to a Farrell as well in terms of looking at someone to point fingers at. In terms of selection, maybe he also needs to come out and say, hey, I made a big boo-boo in that first selection against France, putting Pendergrast under so much pressure in that game. Maybe had he started a Crowley, it could have been a different story, because Crowley is the guy who stood out against a Farrell this week. He's the guy who stood up last week. He's the guy who brought Ireland to where they are this season. You know, he gave that team a big turnaround. We have to credit him for this. So yeah, Farrell maybe made a huge mistake in that regard. I don't know if any one of you guys wants to jump in on the scrum or as Farrell's selection process, and obviously Pendergrass Crowley segment.
I think with Farrell's selection, I'll let Jay jump in a second. I think with Farrell's selection the thing is he always finishes, gets to the end of the day with a winning record. Another Triple Crown in the bank. He can always sit there when all's done and point to the trophy cabinet and point to the win-loss table and say, I've done better than anybody else ever has done for you. So no matter what your gripes are, and there are some, he can always just refer to the wins and losses.
Oof, boom, drops mic. Jade.
You always spot on with stuff like that. But yeah, in terms of, I think Sam's got a lot of opportunity. And last year when they won Six Nations, I know he was really guy pinned all his hopes on. We kind of forgot, about what a key player Crawley was, in the year before and leading up to it. So I think this year Crawley waited his opportunity, and when he got it, he took it. I mean, he's been decent, he's been solid for them, In terms of the scrums, Scoop, let's not go there. Let's not go there in terms of Ireland scrum until they tested, until we see Portier, Furlong, whoever they are, tested against a top quality opposition, scrum opposition, and then I'll do the bloody, because the pictures they showed, in the last five, 6, 7, internationals, the scrummy pictures they showed, oh my word, it's been atrocious, terrible. It's All Blacks, the Boks, Italy, they've been going backwards, bro, backwards. So for me, no. Let's hold on the scrum aspect for them. Because, yeah, look, I must say, Joe McCarthy makes a difference. A tight lock, he does make a difference scrum time. But who did they scrum against? I mean, France didn't have a good scrum. They're not the best scrummagers. They're not the best scrummaging team. Italy's got a very good scrum at the moment. England's okay. Scotland, are they world class? No. And who's the other team? It's Wales. I don't think so. So,
but Wales haven't gone backwards, funny enough.
They haven't gone backwards.
They're one team that hasn't gone backwards. Even though on the results side of things, it might look bad, but when it comes to the scrum and the set piece, really a good team to just keep an eye on. Keep an eye on them.
I would say our set piece is okay, no more.
All right.
The basics is good, man. That's what they're looking at. The foot movement, the way they're scrumming together, the basics is good, and the way they're taking the hit as well. That's what you need, foundation to start on a scrum time. But now, Scoop, let's not mention Ireland and scrums until they come up against top quality.
All right. I hear you. Blah, 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 oh, no, na, no, na, ni, Hugh Griffin, a win is a win, my man. A win is a win. Talk us through it.
Yeah, that was beautiful, man. That was beautiful. Yeah, so I kind of had a feeling, and it's easy for me to say this now, and I've got no receipts to back me up on this, so you just have to believe that I'm not lying. I kind of thought that if Wales won, they'd win by a lot, because I thought it would just be that thing where, once the floodgates open, you can't shut them, and it turned out to be kind of that, and they're 31-0 up. At the time, it's absolute dreamland, and I did a lot. People can check out on my YouTube channel. I've just dropped a deep dive into Italy, and I did a lot of research into Italy in the 2 weeks before the game. And I was like, Italy, they got a good, very decent defense. They've got a great scrum, and they've got Tommaso Menicello, who's a world beater, world class player.
Yeah.
And other than that, I was looking at it, I was going, there's not much else to them beyond this. So I'm thinking, Steve Tandy, this is your cup final. This is the big game. This is the one where the only game where there was expectation on you to win it was Italy at home. So if you're playing against a team that's got a good defense, a good scrum, and one good back, one good centre, and you can't come up with a way to beat that, we've got a problem. And he did find a way to beat that. So I have to give credit to him. He's made it happen. You can now say that this has been a successful Six Nations for Wales, not just because they beat Italy, but also because they improved week on week. And you have to credit the coaches for that, because for them to get the players into camp, they started so badly. And I think they probably learned a few lessons, maybe changed some plans along the way, and turned it around. And so the last 3 games in particular, they were better with each game. The selection, maybe they got lucky with a couple of things. Maybe 1 or 2 cracks have been papered over. Maybe they stumbled upon the answer rather than strode forth and grabbed it. But, can't sniff at the win. Any kind of win is a good win for Wales these days. And it's looking up. We can look ahead to the summer with excitement. We've got the Barbarians, and then we've got Fiji. So you're saying, look, it's 2 winnable games there. Yeah. And then we head down to Argentina away, and then South Africa away. Oof. So you
Argentina, there's potential there.
Well, maybe it depends. Look, you never know with Argentina. This is the thing.
Yeah.
I thought that Italy were poor on the day. I thought they kind of just showed up and went through the motions for the first hour. I thought that, particularly in attack, they weren't bold enough. I think Italy's attack is really poor, really particularly poor. And if it's not Menicello, then they're not getting anything going. I think that Paolo Gabisi has been poor this Six Nations, and I think you can't just rely on kicking threes. I think Italy were expecting an arm wrestle and to be able to kick penalty goals to win it. Mm-hmm. And then once Wales had scored 3 tries in the first half an hour, whatever it was, that was game over. Italy were never going to come back from that. So having said that, I think Gonzalo Caseda sums it up the best, because he said after the game, we've had 3 tries disallowed, chalked off, not given for whatever reason, foot in touch, held up, knock on before the line or something. Mm. And he says that's centimetres. And he says when it comes down to moments like that, it's about who wants it more. And it was clear that Wales wanted it more. And I'm not surprised that was the case, with Italy having their big result last week, whereas this is, as I said, always Wales's cup final. And Wales wanted it more on the day. And nothing better sums that up than Aaron Wainwright's first try, where he has no right to bust the line from there, runs into 2 Italian defenders and just keeps the leg going and says, no, I'm getting over the try line, boys. And over he goes. What a player. Best number 8 in the Six Nations for me. And I'm just happy for the players, because these guys, their childhood dream has been a nightmare scoop for the last 2 years. Yeah. And to get the W in the Six Nations in front of the home crowd, I'm happy for them. They deserve this.
No, agreed. I think from what I've seen, over the years, yes, if we go back to what Pivak, we go back to who's this Chiefs former coach again, Warren Gatland, coming back for a second stint, that is, and then we had the guy who's assisting now currently. In a coaching perspective, you've moved around a lot, and maybe a lot of that also can cause a bit of confusion, because now you're looking for a template, you're looking for an IP, you're looking for foundation, you're looking for structure. And Gatland's structure has always won Wales the games, the Six Nations, the British and Irish Lions tours, etc. And currently or over the past 2 to 3 years, it was a bit iffy, but you were also introducing, let's not take this away or take this for granted, you were also introducing 20-year-olds and 21-year-olds into the international spectrum. And that's going to take time. But with that said, that is now starting to show you cannot play over 20 plus internationals and not improve. You cannot play over 20 plus internationals and not improve. So from a Welsh point of view, I think there is growth, and we've seen the growth, and especially once they introduced a defensive coach as well, there's some energy now. You can see it. There's energy there, and it's also shown that when it comes to the games, the players have a different attitude and a different mentality. If you compare the last 2 games that Wales have played and the first 2 games that Wales have played, different attitude, different games altogether, But I'm happy for Wales, happy that they got this results. And Wainwright, guys, I mean, you looked amazing, looked unstoppable in that game. Manicello, again, with some breaks, but could not finish. But I mean, from an Italian point of view, they almost gave us a Scottish treatment in this competition. So they've won the big games, and then they were hung over after the big games. So maybe they drank too much tea after England, like the Scottish drank too much wine after France. So they couldn't deliver in the game that probably counted for them as probably one of their best Six Nations outings. But now it becomes like a normal. But yes, they've beaten England. Yes, they've beaten Scotland. But now it just becomes like another Six Nations for them, just like Scotland. We've added the numbers. We've conceded numerous number of points. We've lost some games seriously or outplayed, and we've won some games as well. So yeah, from a Welsh perspective, I would rank Wales higher than England and Italy in terms of the energy in these last 2 weeks and the commitment and motivation that they've shown. Vickers, your thoughts regarding this game, and then Jade, you jump in after him, and then we head off to Paris, les Anglais and les Français.
No, I think, look, Scoop, we've talked about it. For Wales, it was always going to be this big one. And in saying that, also, we've said it again on this pod, is that Italy and Argentina come from the same cloth, because they'll pull off a big week this week, and then they'll do something very stupid the following week. So, yeah, but for me, I think, look, I didn't watch the game fully, but as I would have imagined that Wales would have won the game because of that hunger. And I think, as Hugh said, it was always going to be who wanted the most, and of course Wales wanted it the most.
JC?
You know what? I felt like proud of Wales yesterday. I could have said it's like this bunch of children or naughty boys, in the class that's been problematic for years, and finally, they do something right and give us some form of pride. That's the way I felt yesterday for Wales. I think I called it. I said yesterday, that Ireland will beat Scotland, Wales is going to beat Italy, and my last score was England to beat France. I just had that feeling, or that's what my Betway slip said. Yeah, but unfortunately,
give us the lottery numbers at the end of this.
Yeah, Nika had other ideas there at the end. So yeah, but anyway, yeah. But I think in terms of the way the trajectory they've taken since Standy's been in charge, it's been slow, but a slow upwards spiral at the moment. I hope and pray, when they do get one of these big nations, I think what do they play in your summer youth? They've got South Africa, Fiji, and Australia.
Argentina, he mentioned.
Argentina. So I hope they don't throw it away and have one performance where they concede 50, 60, against the Southern Hemisphere teams. I hope they continue on this trajectory, continue forward with what they have and build with what they have. Because there's a few gems, in that team at the moment. I think Lewis Hammett he was good again yesterday. Wainwright has been outstanding for them. Even in games where they they've got hidings. He's been the one guy that's put his hand up. And I fully agree with you. He's the form number 8 in the Six Nations. If we had to choose the Six Nations form 15, he would be my number 8. He's been brilliant for them. So there's been a few guys, Alex Mann, all of them has been brilliant this whole past few weeks and putting their hand up. So maybe this can spur on a few more guys, just to continue and to look up to these performances and get to their level in terms of consistency and performances on the field. And then we might see a different setup, or it might see a few different results when it comes to Wales. I don't want them to throw this away. I don't want them to come on the end of year tour, or let's say in their summer when they do tour and play Southern Hemisphere teams and, throw it away and get real hiding again, take a few backward steps. I think we need to look at the trajectory they're on, and I think it's positive. They've had a positive Six Nations, although they might have, I think they came last, but they've had a positive Six Nations in terms of where they were, not where they want to be in terms of where they were. I think most Welsh rugby fans will feel better now at this moment than what they felt 5-6 months ago.
Yeah, fair enough. But that's it with Wales, guys. Heading over to France. Let me start off with Bothwick's end of post-match comments. Griffin, I know this is your favorite team in rugby world. I know you're Welsh, but this is your favorite country. This is your favorite team. Bothwick believes... Oh, before I even talk about Bothwick, well done to Luke Pearce against England, against Ireland and Scotland. I thought he probably was one of the better officials this weekend. And it's good to see him back. It's good to see him, go back to his original style, quote unquote. When he first came into the scene, he was one of those referees or officials where I thought he lets the game go. He lets the players sort it out themselves. And I saw just that. There was a bit of a dip over the past couple of years, but I see him back to his normal groove again, which is good. It's awesome to see. And he is one of my top 3 officials. Bok number 1, Gardner number 2, and Pearce in number 3. It's a pity South Africa doesn't have Paper anymore, because I thought Paper was one of the good guys as well. But nonetheless, Griffin Bothwick believes that he has been robbed of a victory in Paris, which England hasn't had in a very long time. Robbed in Paris. And Bothwick's job is on the line, by the way. Talk to me.
Look, in a game that finishes like that, with that scoreline, I think it's very difficult to say that anybody's been robbed. I would say that everybody's had a very good chance at winning it. I think the last penalties were correct. Obviously, Scoop, you kind of raised it. It wasn't clear what was going on with the high shot. It's now been cleared up which shot that was, and it was one that happened best part of 30 seconds earlier. That's only got called in later on. But then England committed another penalty after that, which is the one that France actually kicked from.
From Maro Itoje.
Yeah. So
idiot.
So look, if we're going to talk about the referees before we talk about the game, I do think that Nika struggled in this game, and it's a trend with Nika that's in the big games where a lot happens, they tend to get out of control and they they become chaos. Yeah. I think he did a Wales versus South Africa game, which finished with Wales with 2 players in the bin and stuff, and that was chaotic. Went down to a final kick as well. Now you could say from an entertainment point of view, that's what we want.
Yeah.
Awesome. When he referees, we get fireworks, we get drama, we get talking points. But for me, it was a bit too much. And it's something that I've spoken about on this pod a couple of times, is this whole dummy runners taking defenders thing. And France got pinged for off-the-ball tackles a couple of times in this game.
Yeah.
Where, for me, the England attacker has run into a defender. Yeah. And it's been deemed to be an off-the-ball tackle. For me, this is a massive grey area in rugby.
Yes.
There was one Scarlets versus Connacht on Friday night. Connacht had a try ruled out because it was deemed to be an obstruction, where a Connacht player has run into a Welsh defender, and the Welsh defenders hit the deck. Now, if that Scarlets defender, attempts to make a legal tackle on that player, it's probably given as a tackle off the ball. Yeah. But because the Scarlets player is fallen over instead and not made a legal tackle, it's deemed to be an obstruction. That's really the only difference that happens there.
I can take you back to 2022 Island Tour in New Zealand, where a lot of these were blown against the All Blacks, because you always have these, screen runners in front of the ball. I mean, this was introduced by Eddie Jones when he was with the ACT Brumbies back in the days, him and Nisafora. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, as also a person that has officiated here in the European scene. I mean, those dummy runners are running at a defensive player that is standing still. So if you are the one running into a person that's standing still, so surely you should be the problem, right? I know they're trying to create a bit of chaos. They're trying to create a bit of dummy runners, screenplays, etc. But at the end of the day, if I'm deliberately running at Hugh standing still, surely I must be the issue. And even if Hugh pretends as if he's going to put on a shoulder, it's not really a tackle at the end of the day. Surely those runners need to run until a certain point. I think Vickers maybe can also jump into this one in terms of backline play, and those screenplays. How coaches and himself as well, right? In the 7th circuit, 15th circuit as well. How do they come up with a play that might not be deemed as an obstruction or as a tackled off the ball situation?
Yes, good question. Look, you have to understand where it comes from. All of these block runners and everything. This comes from rugby league. You notice in rugby league they use it a lot. And in rugby league it's allowed because the shoulders can connect. If you're running a hard line, you can get a shoulder, nothing happens. So all of this has been taken from rugby league, but then you come into rugby and then we have something called a leg tackle in rugby. And you have something that we call it tackle player without the ball. Okay, that's one. And then now with us in rugby, when we coach, we talk about overloading the channel. So how you can fix it is you try and get players to understand who is the target. So for example, if the 12 is the target or the player in front of the short runner is the target, then if you get two players running on both spaces on either shoulder, either side of the shoulder, then the defender has to make a decision on who he must take and decide on who he must take. And that's how it's supposed to be. But because now in rugby we have this thing of block runners, what players tend to do, they make a decision and stick with it, and then they hit the wrong player, but then they still get the reward. So that's how it's supposed to be, but it doesn't happen like that. So if you talk about overloading the channel, then obviously you're sending two guys to one player, or to one defender, and one is supposed to run inside shoulder of the inside shoulder, one's supposed to run the outside shoulder, and then the defender is to make a decision. Yeah. So that's how they create overlaps. That's how they create, which is what most coaches will tell you, that don't sit, swim pass, because if you sit, then that means that we've beaten you and we're going on the outside. Or if you swim past and I give a short runner, then that short run has got no one. If you look at the way Ireland scored last week, their first try last week with the winger, that's exactly what happened.
Yes.
They drifted off because they were so worried about the outside, and then they hit the short runner and they ran straight through. So it is quite normal within, obviously, the coaching. But like you said, it comes from rugby league, where in rugby league, that doesn't get penalized. Only in rugby union that gets penalized in terms of those block runners.
Perfect. Hugh, continue.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers, Vickers. So I'd like to say as well that I have sympathy for referees, because there's that much going on and there's that much chaos that they can't literally watch everything. So if they just make the decision, I'm going to watch the ball and focus on that, then that's all they can do. They're relying on their ARs. But at the same time, we always complain when the ARs and the TMOs chirp up and get too involved from the sidelines. So, it's kind of no win, isn't it? So France got a bit lucky in this game. Finn Smith has missed 3-4 kicks at goal. They would have won it if he'd nailed those. So there you go. Massive, respect to Ramos at the end. No hesitation. It's from miles out. You can see, if you watch it, the camera angle was absolutely perfect for what we saw on TV. And as soon as it leaves the tee, you're like, it's over. Okay, this is over. And there was his routine is so relaxed. This guy doesn't feel pressure.
Yeah.
Watching him goal kick is a real pleasure, and seeing him in that moment, God, that's mentality. We talk about what Andre Pollard has done in knockout games for the Springboks.
Yeah.
Ramos. Okay, I'm sure people are going to be thinking about the Colby charge down and stuff now, but that's that. You talk about big moments, winning the Six Nations in front of 80,000 people in Paris, when you're wearing a special edition jersey as well.
Oh, jeez.
And the second-hand jersey market is completely resting on your shoulders at that point. A lot of people paid a lot of money for those jerseys. Louis Bielbiere. What else can you say? If greatness is, turning up in the big moments, in a Six Nations deciding match, Louis Bielbiere has scored 4 tries.
Insane.
So how's that for greatness? What is it? He scored for 10 Six Nations games in a row. No one else has ever done more than 7. And he has broken the record for most tries in a Six Nations 2 seasons in a row. Louis Bielbiere has broken the record for most tries in the Six Nations, a record previously held by Louis Bielbiere. We're witnessing greatness. And finally, Jalibert, they're calling him an artist, the French number 10. They're calling him an artist in France. His attacking stats are on another planet to everybody else's. But going into the game, if you combined his line breaks made with his line breaks assisted, you get 4.2 per game. Think about that for a second, guys. One player, 4 line breaks in a game, average over multiple games. That doesn't happen. There are teams who can't make 4 line breaks in a game combined, let alone one player do it. So, yeah, the France's attack has gotten them out of jail in the Six Nations. I think if you're Rassie Erasmus, you watched the Six Nations this weekend, you sat down next to the braai or with a brandy and coke, and you had a big smile on your face, and you said, none of these teams are even laying a finger on us. But by God, it was entertaining.
Fair. My thoughts. What did I think? I started off early, late with this game. And I think Jade's text in the group reminded me. I don't know what distracted me. And I think I was, 15 minutes into that first half. I think it was like 17-0 or 17-7 to France at that point. And out of nowhere, England started scoring points, and it was 17-all. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Because when it was 17-7, I thought, okay, well, France is taking this, and it's all over. It's probably going to be like a 40-pointer. And yeah, somehow England kept on scoring tries when you least expected. And then France got off the blocks quite quickly in that second half. And then you were like, okay, oh boy, here we go. This is what's going to happen. But then somehow there's an intercept that puts England back into the game. Yeah, it was a crazy game, to be honest. I don't know what to make of it from a tactical point of view, because it's difficult to tactically analyze a 48-46. 48 points to 46. It's highly impossible to tactically analyze, besides just giving praise to players like LBB and players like Jalibert, for example, and obviously the kick by Ramos at the end, because it reminds me of, I think, All Blacks 2020, 2001, 2000, Jade, in Sydney. And Tana Umaga's players, scored quick tries. It was 21-0. And then John Eales, Australia, came back, and it went down to the wire. Jonah Lomu scoring in the end. A similar type of game. But, credit to England, because nobody saw this coming from them. And Maro Itoje, probably one of his better games in this tournament. But I think one of the stars as well, Chisholm, was quite great. Coles was pretty good. Genge, okay. I don't agree with the penalty try and the yellow card he got. From a French perspective, I think no one can say more than LBB. I think Barassi was pretty decent. in his carries. Ramos, obviously, accurate goal kicking. I mean, there's no player I think I've seen who is this accurate. I mean, Farrell comes to mind. I thought he was quite accurate. Sexton, I don't think was that accurate. Wilkinson was pretty accurate. And Percy Montgomery was pretty accurate with the Springboks in his second stint. Yeah?
Lee Halfpenny, bro. You're going to make you leave us.
Lee Halfpenny, yes. Oh, shit. Yeah, he was pretty good. Damn. No, but like I'm just talking about goal kicking accuracy. Lee Halfpenny, yeah, sure, 100%. And he could also nail them from 60 meters odd. So, yeah, I mean, there's stiff competition there. I mean, maybe there should be a poll on who has been the most accurate goal kicker, let's say maybe after 50 tests at least. 50 tests probably is a good threshold for these players, and look at maybe the percentages. But, yeah, in all honesty, I think once Marcus Smith came in, England looked a bit of a dazzle team. There were a lot of breaks. There were a lot of line breaks. I don't know what Pollard was doing with trying to kick that ball. He had won the turnover. He ran and then tried to pass, but he couldn't pass accurately. There's some inexperience that kind of shown from an English side of things, because it was literally 2 minutes. 2 minutes on the clock. Usually teams just want to go for short passes, and the forwards are just hanging around the breakdown. Carry, clean, ref calls use it, you waste another 10-15 seconds from that, because they really said it's 5 seconds once a ref calls use it, by the way. How many times have we seen players delay, or halfbacks delay that ball coming out of that breakdown? They came up with the law to try and speed up the game, but how many of the officials are really taking that seriously? These are some of the things I don't like when they introduce laws that are probably unnecessary, because that ball gets stuck in that breakdown. There's 10 bodies all over it. You need, as a 9, you need to drag that ball out of there, etc. But nonetheless, I think it was a very, very good game. Congratulations to France. High scoring game again, 2 weeks back to back. I mean, France has conceded almost 100 points, but with that said, they also scored a ton load of points, which also gave them security, I think, in this competition. With their forward pack, I don't know, maybe lots of work needs to go in there, but their backline is unmatched at the moment. And that kick and chase has been one of their fundamental go-tos in this competition. Knowing that BLRay is blitz and Atisogbe is also blitz, why not just kick the ball? I mean, run it 1 or 2 phases, and then the defense is going to come up. Maybe the wingers are up as well. The fullback is isolated at the back. Then it's a nice, easy chip, and it's a 50-50 ball after that. And chances are BLRay or Atisogbe is going to get that ball. Is going to get to that ball before an Elliot Daly in his at the age of 106. So he's never going to get there. Huh?
In his wheelchair.
Jade or Vickers, you can jump in and share your thoughts regarding this game.
For me. Oh, sorry.
To add on to your Scoop, I think you need the nail on the head when it comes to France, but it would be a big concern, conceding almost 100 points in 2 weeks. No coach ever, and especially with the amount of hype Sean Edwards gets, that would be a big concern for them. So I think if you look at it, whenever the France get into your positions 22, they always tend to take points. And because the reason why I jumped into this before you, so I wanted to direct this to you, you could just think about it, but we see the way they are playing, putting through the grabber through and the chip kick through for LBB and for the likes to run through. Remember, they've got basically 2 game players, or how can I say, they've got playmakers in the backline. As Ramos comes in, he's a playmaker as well. He's got the soft touch and the deft touch to put in the grabber. So how do teams now adjust to that, especially with teams that's been focusing on speed and getting off the line with speed? How do they adjust to that when playing France? Because that's not going to, you can't, with the rush defense, I mean, there's always that opportunity that You can put the ball in behind, you know. Yes, there is opportunity that you block and you'll stop the grabber, but as soon as the ball gets in behind, you know, teams like France with the LBB is going to hurt you, and that's what they tend to do. And also look at the way how they're manipulating the space actually to get those kicks through. You know, that's also key. Where they put in key players like Jolibe and Ramos in key areas where they can get those kicks through. It's not just that they're doing it out of impulse, actually planned, and that's something they've been working on. I just want to know from Vuyo's side also how do teams plan this now? What do you do in terms of your defense? Because everybody's focusing so on speed and, you know, speed of lining, getting rush up. How are you going to do that? But the other big issue with France had yesterday, I'll be straight about it. They were dead lucky to win that game yesterday. I think England were unlucky. I think the call where Finn Smith kicked the ball and it was the last try of LBB, this fourth try. I think that the way Finn Smith thought that he was playing under penalty advantage. And as he kicked the ball, the referee stated that no, he's playing knock-on advantage over. And for me, you know, that was a key point in the game because France actually went on to score from there. And the other thing is, I'm sure that France must not be happy with the way they're scrummaging. They're poor at scrum time. We've been out-scrummed by a few teams in the Six Nations. Scotland out-scrummed them. England out-scrummed them yesterday. Italy out-scrummed them. So for me, you know, something they're really going to have to look at. If they want to win the World Cup next year, and I think that's their plan, they got to look at their scrum. Their scrum is nowhere at the moment. We thought that maybe it was because they had loose forwards, you know, playing at lock. But yesterday they had two out-and-out locks with Flament and what's his name at lock as well. But they still couldn't get it right. So I don't know where the problem is with France. I don't know. But they're making a lot of technical errors at scrum time, overextending, pre-engaging, you know, not absorbing the deliberate wheeling. Those are the things they're doing at scrum time, and it's proven that under pressure they can't get that right. So that's for me the area France needs to look at. And the other thing that I do like of France, and I've seen them in the Six Nations Cup, and it's something that you picked up last year, they tend to maul of two, but they'll maul, you know, from the halfway line, and they'll set up the maul. And as soon as that maul is set, the hooker breaks, or they break from the maul at various positions. You know, sometimes they break from the front, they don't shift the ball to the back, and then they set up a play in the different areas, different strike zones. I think that's something that that they're working on, because normally when you're setting up the maul, you're going forward, and then you have your 9, you know, playing a long pass to a runner coming off, or maybe to 12 or to a fly off. But what France are doing is when they're setting from that maul and they're breaking away from the maul, they're breaking away at different positions, and they're breaking away into different spaces on the field. You know, sometimes they're going central, sometimes they're going wide. You know, so that's something, you know, that they elevated into the game, and it's working specifically good with them with that more the maul of twos. We also ask the question, why do they maul of two? But that's why they're doing it. But yeah, you know, I'll direct that question onto Vuyo in terms of defense, because I don't know how teams will adjust to this, especially teams that's going on with the blitz defense.
Yeah, Jay, that's a good question, brother. Oof, okay, so France are very smart.
Here we go.
France are very smart because you notice how many times France kick long. We call it kicking long, finding grass, which is the old type school New Zealand way of kicking. So what they do is that the more they kick long, the more you start to worry too much about the back, because even these days we have things like 50-22s, so they come into play. So now, which means because most of the teams are using their 9s to defend in the defense line and not a sweeping role like we've accustomed way back in the days. So now they're starting to put those chips through, and they starting to get ascendancy on that. I mean, if you remember the Bulls, that's how they beat the Sharks. So that's exactly how they beat the Sharks, is by putting those kicks behind. So you can literally set up a what you call a front foot kick. So you play, and then we have what you call maybe second last or third last pair of hands. Put a grabber through. Let's see if they can defend it. So most of the time, it's very difficult. But if you have your 9, for example, sweeping that behind the defense line, and then if you have your 9 sweeping, and then you have your blindside wing, or obviously doing what they call wings and strings, then you can maybe cover it, but it's very difficult. So that's why it's a very smart way of doing it, because if you kick long, you're gonna sit deeper. But then, because if you're 9 defends in the line, and then it opens up that back kick space. So yeah, I hope I've answered your question there, brother. I was just thinking, for me, I didn't. It felt like the game was the boxing match. Like, you punch, let me see what you're gonna do. That's how it felt like, and I feel like that's how France was so surprised that they were. It felt like they were comfortable, and then all of a sudden they were losing. So
Yeah.
so that for me was not a smart way, but again they pulled it off at the end, and credit to as Hugh said, Gillabay. If they drop Gillabay after this Six Nations, then
Oof.
I don't know what's going to happen, because
Are you saying there's no way for Intermac to come back into that 10th position?
I don't see it. It will have to be a Antoine Dupont call to decide who's going to start, because we haven't seen Antoine Dupont this Six Nations. For me, he hasn't been standing out, and because Gillabay is demanding the ball to go to him most of the time, and he's creating not Dupont. And also, again, Scoop, it's one of those things. I mean, look, you can throw a skip pass and it gets intercepted because there's line speed. But if you look at just the way he's controlled the French attack in these last 2 weeks, I think it's been brilliant. For me, he's by far better influential fly half than Intermac at the moment.
Whoa. Hugh, what are the murmurs in France regarding the 10th position?
Yeah, well, there's some people who don't like that Jalibert is stealing Dupont's thunder. And I think it's fair to say that when Jalibert is in the team, Dupont is quieter because he's got to let this other guy do his stuff. And I think, as Vuyo said, the only justification for taking Jalibert out of the team is because you want a stronger Dupont, as in you don't want someone to cramp his style. And, that would be a big statement from Galtier if he makes that selection call. So the question is a slightly, because he's not completely diminished, is a slightly diminished Dupont plus Jalibert less good than a full Dupont and a Roman Untermac whose job it is to not get in Dupont's way? For me, I think the selection choice is clear. I think there would be uproar if Jalibert was dropped now.
No, definitely. And what do we make of Bothwick now after the Six Nations? I mean, last week, obviously, the CEO of Rugby Football Union has backed him, and now he's lost, 3 or 4 on the trot, and England haven't looked any good besides the Welsh game, to be honest, and probably now this game against France. Does he still now stay as the head coach if you were the CEO of RFU at the moment? Or do we wait until the summer, like the CEO said? Let's see until the summer, and they've got Fiji at home, but they're traveling. They're traveling to Australia. They're traveling, I think, to Argentina and New Zealand, or not. But yeah, they're still going to travel and play away games. And it's going to be quite daunting for them. And the challenge of traveling, 1 week you in Argentina, 1 week you in Australasia, it almost feels...
They've got South Africa. They've got South
and South Africa. Oh, my goodness. It almost feels like the old school tri-nations where teams needed to travel back and forth all around the Southern Hemisphere. So it's going to be quite a daunting task for them, a big challenge. And if Bothwick loses a few games, obviously South Africa, he's not going to beat South Africa in South Africa, definitely not. And let's see how he does then against Argentina in Argentina, or is it Australia as well? So that's going to be quite tough. I don't see Australia losing at home this time around. And France as well are traveling to New Zealand and Australia. That's also going to be a good challenge. I think it sets up this Nations Cup in a good way, or also as a tester for some of these teams, seeing that there's a a World Cup in Australia. So how well they do now is going to be quite telling on how well they will do in 2027. And you've also got what? How many playoff games? You've got the round of 16, you've got the quarterfinals, you've got the semi-final and final. So that's 4 weekends in a row to actually pull it off. 4 good weekends. Maybe round of 16 won't be that bad, but from quarterfinals onwards, it's going to be tough. It's going to be very, very, very tough. Jade, another round, another drawer. Another round, another drawer. Back-to-back performances. I mean, guys, it's I don't know. It's good for rugby, as everyone would say. I mean, beating Brumbies by 40 points. A team that looked unstoppable in round 1, 2, and 3. They've beaten them by 42 points to 27. People are complaining about the heat. People are complaining about the fan base. We don't say a lot about the fan base in Drua, in Fiji, for this Drua team, because it is rowdy, it is noisy. As soon as the Drua get ascendancy, man, you probably, as a hooker, you probably even don't hear your calls for lineouts. Players can't even hear each other on the pitch. It's quite intense. It is really intense to go over there and try and win. And I would go as far as to say it'll be difficult for any team to go to Drua and try and beat them at club level. And maybe that's why this is why I wanted England to travel to Fiji. I wanted to see something. I would just want to see something. I haven't seen enough of Bothwick yet. I want to see Bothwick traveling to Fiji and trying to beat Fiji at home. What do you make of Drua, man?
Yeah, look, Scoop, they haven't been outstanding this season, but they've got 2 big wins back to back now. I think they beat the Hurricanes and then they beat the Brumbies now. Now, obviously, the Hurricanes was a team that everybody thought would be there and thereabout, and the Brumbies as well. I mean, the Brumbies went to Christchurch, beat the Crusaders just 3 weeks ago, and they tapered off. But if you look at the way the Drua plays in those conditions, it's not like they play a kicking game. It's not like it's up and unders, aerial contests or not. They're not scared to throw the ball around, They're not scared to throw the ball around. So, for me, and looking at the players that the Drua lost last year, they had to rebuild this team again. They're decent. They're a decent team. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but you're not going to go to Fiji. You're not going to go to Churchill Park. You're not going to win there easily. You're not going to win easily there. And especially in those conditions. It's humid, it's hot, it's wet. You can get torrential rain at halftime. So the sun can be shining now, and then at halftime you get torrential rain, and then it's just 2 different conditions can happen during that 80 minutes on the field. So, that's my 2 cents on them. They're always going to be brilliant at home. Away from home, there's a chance that they can concede 50 points every game away from home. But at home, they might just win all of their games. That's just how they are. It's a daunting place to go to. I don't think any team around the world, even your 2 losers or so, would find it easy to play at Churchill Park in Fiji. It's difficult to play there. The conditions it's a challenge. It's not bad conditions because it's tropical conditions, but it's a challenge to play. It's hot, it's humid. Like I said, and you're playing against a Fiji team, the more they're in that and the deeper they get into that game, the more the skills come out and the more they express themselves, You basically have everybody from hooker, besides the 2 props, but your hookers, your 2 locks, your wings, everybody in that team are the same pace, the same size, and they all got the same skill set. At the moment, so that's the way the Drua are at the moment. But it's refreshing for rugby. Super Rugby needs the Drua. They need them to do well. And I mean, long may this continue. Long may we speak about it. Because now, Scoop, I'm even getting up that time of the morning at 5:30 on a Saturday morning to watch the game live. Because for me, it's entertaining. It's entertaining. It's a game I look out for the weekend. Who's the Drua? Are they playing at home? Let me get up. Let me watch this game.
No, fair. I mean, we had 2 big games, Crusaders, Highlanders, Reds, Waratahs. I mean, Blues and Pacifica, I don't know. Pacifica are not, Moana are not the same team they were last season when Adi was there. You can see the difference. When Adi was there in a game like this, it probably would have been closer. but I mean, the Blues ran away with it. But obviously, Blues fans are complaining that the Blues haven't evolved as a team. Cotter hasn't brought in a different attack shape or a different style of play for this team. It's been the same hard-nosed, confrontational, and then let the backs do the job, do the work afterwards. I mean, as a Blues fan, I mean, are you also of the thought that Van Cotter now it's time for him to already leave Auckland and go to Queensland already?
You know what? I think he can evolve his game. Giving the likes of AJ Lamb and Aki and all of them. Because Aki is a very physical player, but Caleb Clark's been doing well. But I mean, Cody Wise and your Zon Sullivans, to express themselves more. They've hardly been doing it. 2 seasons ago, they won the competition, and they've been basically playing quarter ball. That's what won them this competition. They had good body positioning contact, got over the advantage line the whole time. Guys like Rico and Cott and Caleb Clark and Talia hardly touched the ball a bit because the pack, they played 10-man rugby and they won teams by 40, 50 points, that year because nobody could stop them. Now teams stop them. They match them physically. The scrum is not that dominant. The maul is not that dominant. Now they're struggling. They don't have a plan B. They can't get back. Last week, they relied on Bowden Barrett to come in and shake up things. Today, they were very flat in that victory against Moana. I mean, they just did what they needed to do. So, for me, there's nothing really excites me in terms of the Blues team. Nothing really that excites me. I don't know if it's going to evolve. I don't know, but I hope so. I hope because, I mean, if he comes up against the Crusaders team again in the playoff or against the Chiefs team in the playoff, it's going to match him physically. There's no way they're going to win if that backline is not used to playing an expansive game. How are they going to adjust in a quarterfinal or semi-final or final to play expansive?
Yeah.
That's the big question with the Blues, and that's what we as Blues supporters feel. And I mean, they've got the players there, they've got guys that can do it. But yeah, I think Vern's just going to stick to what he knows, and they're just going to go head down, play old, 2009, 2010 Blue Bulls rugby, 10-man rugby, and that's the way they're going to go about it. Vern's not going to change.
Nah, fair. And we had Hurricanes and Force. I mean, I expected Hurricanes to run away with it, but I was quite impressed in how the Force stood up. And I think it took the Hurricanes a wee while to kind of really get into their rhythm and really start playing some rugby. I don't know. I've never been a big fan of, is it Laidlaw? I think their coach. I haven't been a big fan since he was also with the Sevens. I wasn't a big fan then either, but I'm not sure, man, if he can really get, because now I think they've got a lock pairing, which is something that, or some of the concerns we spoke about, I think last season. I know they've got Walker. They had Gallagher. I'm not sure where Gallagher is currently, but it's just, I don't know. It's not humming, man. They've got All Blacks within their firepower. So I don't know how Laidlaw can get these guys humming again. I mean, to the team that we saw that won the Super Rugby competition at one point. But yeah, it's on and off. They've got a backline for days. Backline wise, they've got players that can dazzle. They've got players that can play multiple positions in that Canes outfit. But I don't know if 31-23 is a true reflection of how good this Hurricanes team is.
Yeah, but they mixed and matched this team. So, I mean, they had guys on the bench that came on to normally starters, that really didn't make the impact that they should have because they really lost that last quarter as well. But I agree with you. I think he's got too many loose forwards that he's trying to alternate every game. He doesn't know who's his best loose forward. All I know is that he's going to play Devin Flanders every day because he's the best loose forward at the moment.
Yeah, he's probably going to be an All Black at the end of this year, definitely.
He's going to be an All Black this year. But I mean, Cam Roigard hasn't been really been showing at this world class so far. I think he's still getting into it. But yeah, I think Josh Morby's been doing well at wing. But other than that, I think he's alternating his team a little bit too much. But with all of these, they haven't played anybody. They haven't played good opposition yet.
Yeah.
Right? They have not played good opposition. They got the Highlanders a weekend. I'm not sure what test that will really be for them, because I think the Highlanders are slowly running out of depth in that team as well. But they haven't really played a strong team. So until they come up against Crusaders, Chiefs, Blues, Brumbies, Reds, then we can really say where they are, where they are. But Scoop, before we close off Super Rugby, you got to answer this one. So, you've got to answer this one. I'm going to put you on the spot. Sorry, you and Vuyo for viewing you. But there's a guy who captained the All Blacks in 2000, and when was it? From 2003 until about 2005. Well-respected Tana Umaga. The rumors are, and almost confirmed by him this morning, that he will be one of Dave Rainey's assistants. What do you feel about what's your thought?
Yes, like it. Man, I saw these headlines during the week, and I don't know, man. I wasn't too sure. I think, okay, first and foremost, Tana can coach, number one. I think we've seen him do well once he came in to help. Was it McDonald at the Blues at one point? And then they kind of sorted things around the Blues. I mean, the Blues had been one of those teams that were, remember remember how Blue Bulls were in 2000 under Yost, and like terribly performing, but they got the Blues back into their mojo. You had Eremia coaching Auckland the previous year, and they went into the finals, or they won the NPC, if I'm not mistaken. And then the following year, McDonald was there as the head coach for the Super Rugby, and they were there in leaps and bounds. I mean, you could see there was something different about the Blues this time around than before. Because they were at one point, they were the whipping boys in the competition, and then Tana got in there. I've seen Tana with Razor at the under 21 level, under 20 level, where they won a few championships there. So we saw Tana with Moana last year. After Major was the coach and they weren't really doing well, and Tana came in, things changed there as well. Yes, he hasn't been on the quote unquote winning side a lot when it comes to this. I mean, he's coached at Tigers before, Leicester Tigers, that is. So he's got a bit of international experience in that case. But when it comes to Tana Umaga, yeah, he's a prominent figure in New Zealand rugby. There's no doubt about that. He's a respected man in New Zealand rugby. And I think he also knows what it means to be an All Black. And he was part of the group that actually changed behavioral traits or respecting the jersey. This was under Graham Henry in that time, where they came up with the new haka, Copa Opango, that we know today, right? And you could see the transcendence of the change within New Zealand rugby from a player's perspective. Yes, they didn't win 2027 because Tana also retired, quite, I think, prematurely. But obviously he had his own reasons to retire, because we had an inexperienced Richie McCaw as a captain, and that's when the All Blacks were just heavily dependent on individual brilliance and individual skills. But obviously they needed more than that. And having lost a figure like Tana leading into 2007 was a big blow for them, I think. But Tana as a coach, I think he's all right. As an assistant coach, this is. I think he would be good, but I don't know in which department he falls into. But I mean, if we look at Dave Rennie, we all talk about him as being one of those heavy culture coaches. And if now you're also going to involve a bit of Tana as well, I don't know how this fits in, unless he's going to be a skills coach, strictly skills and backs to get that backline humming. I don't know what his main department would be. But I mean, Dave Rennie is also a back skills attack type of coach as well.
And he's a defensive coach.
He's got what?
He's a defensive.
Tana.
A defensive. Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, if he's good at defense, then we'll have to see, because international rugby at this point is quite interesting at the change. Because I mean, if this was 2 years ago, we would say, yeah, defense is highly important. But now looking at Six Nations already and the score lines that we're seeing, how important, it's very important to be a good defensive team, but yeah, will it be tested in those areas? But yeah, I don't know, Jade. I really don't know about Tana being in that mix, but yeah, let's see how that goes for him. But him being included, him being a prominent figure, that goes without say. And will he be respected in that group? 110%. Yeah, he brings a bit of respect. He brings a bit of order, if I may call it like that as well. I don't know what Hugh or Vuyo thinks about this inclusion of Tana into the All Blacks, and then we can close it off after this.
I was just thinking about it from a Moana point of view. You know, they lost Stephen Jones. They've lost 15 players in the off season. They keep getting passed around home venues. Apparently, the Blues have said we don't want them playing in Auckland because they might get too many people go and see them. And now they're losing their head coach. Now, I don't blame Tanner for leaving at all. He'd be crazy not to. But then you talk about the reports about how hard the NZRU tried to stop Ardy from going there and threatened him with financial penalties for signing for them. I'm kind of looking at it now going, what is Moana? You know, what chance do these guys have? You know, they're being the NZRU are basically setting them up to fail, and anybody who does succeed there, they go, oh great, and we'll take them off you, thanks.
yeah. Vickers? Is Vickers still around? I think it's gone. But yeah, I think, guys, well done to the Crusaders. Highlanders, Jade, I think they're decent, but yeah, they just don't have the manpower. Like you said, the depth is going to be a concern for them. But I think it'll be a very good game between them and the Hurricanes next week. It'll be a good test as well for Jamie Joseph. You know, I think for me, I'm looking at Jamie Joseph and judging him now as how high quality or caliber coach he is during this competition. I would love for Jamie Joseph to join the All Blacks, actually. I would have preferred that over Tana, for example, and maybe being an assistant coach would be great for him, seeing that he's interested in the All Black role, and it would be nice for him to be in that group for now, and then post 2027 or post the British and Irish Lions tour, he takes over in 2029 or 2030 into the 2031 World Cup. I think that would bode well for him, in my perspective. I think that's just about it, guys, from my side. And parting shots, and then we are off. Who wants to go first? Griffin.
No, I gave my shots at the beginning, mate.
Vickers, are you still with us or are you gone? Yeah, I think he's gone. Jade?
No parting shots this week, you know. I think next week be interesting to see once we get back to URC, full-blown URC and Super Rugby. We'll have a lot of chit and chat and banter in terms of what is the good and best tournament or so. But I mean, it's just out the whole day of rugby that you can enjoy yourself.
Fair. But yeah, thank you very much, Griffin. Thank you very much, Vickers. Thanks, Jade. And thanks to all the listeners as well. Guys, it's been a great Six Nations, probably one of the best Six Nations we've seen in a long time. And yeah, rugby is humming, man. Rugby is in a good spot. And let's not try and change and obviously tinker here and there to try and make it even a better I mean, it's a good spectacle as it is. It's gotten us chatting. And I think since the Six Nations started, every post I'm making now is I don't know. The views are incredible. The conversations are incredible. And it's always good to keep rugby in the space. And yeah, have a great Sunday. It's Monday tomorrow, guys. It's another week of hard work. And have a great Sunday. Have a good dinner for those who haven't cooked yet. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week Sunday. We'll be talking club footy next week Sunday. Great Sunday. Have a lovely day, guys. Thank you very much once again. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers, guys.